RMIT, OurPlace. I bet you're wondering why an office building is in the educational category and why ARM are doing fit-outs in 1990s office buildings. And some we were wondering too. When RMIT spoke to us about this project, they wanted to reinvent how they worked, and they were taking 1,500 odd staff out of 8 different old buildings and trying to get a new work culture. This is administrative staff. They want to inspire how academic staff could work in the future too. And you all know about the problems of academic staff and their tenure and what they need, their 12 square metres, God knows. So we're going from this sort of crap, which could be anywhere from 1950 through to 2020, and those old ways of working of cells and filing cabinets and even dysfunctional meeting rooms and stupid ways of working that require 5 different coloured post-it notes to get your shit together, to a more appropriate, engaging method. Not in the way that Francis Duffy talked about, which was all of that sort of cells and clubs and hives, but in kind of a social structure, the way we like to engage with each other, the culture of working, the culture of being together. And that became all more interesting post-COVID, even though we didn't really think about it, of course, because it opened on April 1st last year to no fanfare whatsoever. But of course, the new post-COVID workplace, all about talking, sharing, and doing that online at the same time as in real time. I've got to go a bit quicker. This is our site, and we, it was, perhaps not one of DCM's finest moments. Buggered by commercialities of Grocon on the corner of Slonston and Lonsdale, and quite a troublesome plate we'll talk about. Before we picked up a pen, so to speak, there was 6 months of briefing. So you imagine taking 1,400 staff and making them uncomfortable. It's a pretty hard thing to do, and we want to inspire change, which required them to change their work methods to match the new building. So lots of interaction. There we learned some things. A lot of their desks are empty all the time. Before COVID, most people were already mobile. Post-COVID, everyone was absolutely mobile, of course. Only 40% of tasks were individual tasks, but when they got together, 70% of those tasks were between 2 and 4 people. So the meeting room didn't also make much sense either. So our interest, I guess, was in this alternative work settings. You have to have primary work settings, but we couldn't really affect those. And when we got to analysing that after the event, our real work was all this pink stuff on the plate, which are all seats that are non-traditional seats. A diagram for this sort of double figure 8 plan with cores in the middle was a social or interactive space in the middle, bleeding out to more and more focused and individuals to the perimeter, stacked up across the 3 levels, 10,000 square metres, 1,500 staff. Together in those kind of workshops you saw, these were the guiding principles we imagined. Of course, these are issues for our time, so let's push those aside for a minute. They need to be thinking about students, and students do come here, but not as much as in an academic environment. But we took this to heart and didn't want to do some surface treatment or a bit of decoration. I wanted to discover what that might mean. Many discussions with Carolyn Briggs, who was almost a co-creator, I should say, of this. And with the first discussion, I brought this to the table and said, what a horror, the hospital that was there, and it wasn't this exact building, but on this site, William Barak couldn't even go and visit his dying child at this hospital site. And she said, well, that's all very interesting, but that's a bit black armband. We're trying to create a positive proposition for the future of getting along and creating a community. Why are you talking about then? Let's look ahead. And she encouraged us down a path which we knew about already, but not in interiors, which is place theory, people-centred design, and trying to use placemaking for a fit-out. I can't imagine it's been done too much before. And we came across, I don't know how many different narratives, I think there's 16, if I can count, different stories that we tried to tell almost in polyphony over and over again. And they're spread across 2 parts, which is neighbourhoods where people get along and interact, and also destinations, and then neighbourhoods are those basic work settings.
Okay, so we've selected 5 slides only of the 16, and really what we're showing here is that it is actually an Australian narrative. Over 10,000 square metres, 16 different stories. We had half a dozen carpets, linoleums, laminates and timbers. We therefore looked to 40 different wall treatments, 50 fabrics and 10 glazing films. These were to create a curated character for each of the themes that we were making. It's hyper-real in a sense. It's a theatre carefully balanced between narrative and workplace. So it finishes with a nagi. This is on level 7. This is where everyone gathers. So these are all sketches that are at the beginning of ideas. We collaborated with Spacecraft and KLR Arts. Here you see a campfire. And the campfire, all of the coal was collected, ground and made into pigment, which made the artwork for this project. Here's an example of one of the artists looking extremely proud. And again, the art in its final location in the Nagi. We also worked very closely with John Buckingham. He was the curator of the RMIT collection. It was really important that this artwork was placed in a context, so it's not decorating the walls, it's actually a part of the character of the space.
We want to bring students in, so we started, while we did that briefing process, with a couple of design studios, both in architecture and interiors. Then students created a whole of the pieces. This is a textile piece. They did graphics, they did wallpapers, they did films. And here's the pictures finally of the thing, but I think the context is probably more telling than an easier way to read the pictures now.
Walajika meaning welcome. It's on level 5. Here's an example of some of the artwork that was specifically made for this project. Down the carriageway.
The good room, our collective memory. Grandma's front room, maybe it's Robin Boyd's front room. The meeting room as dining table.
The park with picket fencing. A workshop area within the park. The veranda, all of those metal pieces, they're musical. When the doors are open onto the balcony, they all chime. The campfire, this is a custom graphic of a fire. Once again, looking down towards the campfire.
The pantry in the campgrounds. A work point in the campgrounds. Almost there. The laneway environment with the terrific Rico Rennie collaboration. The workbench. So the whole point is that they're places to undertake projects, places to collaborate, places to do work that just breaks down the silos of whether it doesn't really matter which of the 10 departments that you're in. And then culminating in the Nagi, which is Boonwurrung to come together and filling that major void that existed there that didn't have much meaning in the original building with a new gathering space.
Yeah, well, this is the night sky. This is a way of bringing together everyone. Everyone sees the night sky. And you'll see there about 40 different fabrics. These are representative of different nationalities in the world. So it's a way of not reinforcing, but bringing together that whole idea of communality. And you'll see in the background there, those artworks are leaning forward. So that's a way of forming embrace. That's it.
That's our time, I think.
Thank you.